I admire you so much for putting on that heavy gear, going into a burning building. There is something you can do. There's a lot you can do.
Betty Lack is a registered nurse at the burn unit at Baptist Medical Center. When it comes to burn victims, these firefighters see the beginning and this woman sees the end. She's been hired by Baptist to teach firefighters how to handle burn victims at the scene.
Remember, third-degree burns are white or yellow. They're tough and they're dry. You can touch a burn wound. Don't be afraid of touching a burn wound. You're not going to make it any worse. Don't worry about sterile. Do you know you are heroes to those burn victims? You are the last person they see before they think, this is it, I'm going to die.
The Oklahoma City Fire Department thinks it's a good idea. So far, 160 firefighters have taken part in seminars just like this one, and another 500 still will. Terry Cook, News 4. Nancy Reed's face was badly burned in a diesel explosion 9 months ago. The scars have required an emotional healing process. Covering them up has required hours of searching for camouflage makeup and never any satisfaction.
In the moment, it looks not so good because...
But that will change. Right now, it does not look so good, but in about an hour, you will be impressed. Malu Wills is the artist here, a camouflage makeup specialist from West Germany, whose fingers meticulously pat on the paste-like substance with an eye for the proper color and consistency, one that comes from 20 years of experience with camouflage makeup and working with European burn centers. For Nancy Reed, it means a more normal-looking complexion until some of the redness fades and plastic surgery redefines her features.
I was really excited about it. To make over my face is like an art, and I was real tickled, real pleased with her.
This is the final step, translucent powder. It sets the makeup. Now it will not wash off. The makeup sticks to the smooth burns and scars, which surprised even Nancy Reed. Lessening the physical scars makes the emotional ones easier to handle.
It's good?
It's real. Thank you.
Terry Cook, News 4.
Thank you. Very nice.
Okay, what is the line to do about one
for the first time allows them to call us directly with an emergency situation and give us in writing, if you will, the specific address where they need us at or where they've seen a crime in progress or whatever the emergency may be.
In the 800 block of Southwest ladder to safety while holding the boy against her chest. Jenna, it is certainly refreshing in this busy life. Had it not been for your unselfish disregard for your own safety and well-being, this young man might not have been alive today. It is certainly refreshing in this busy life we live in today to see a young child like you take the time to help other people in their dire time of need.
these reforms which we need to
If there is one unwritten law among politicians everywhere, it is this: don't raise taxes in an election year. In 1984, a majority of the Oklahoma legislature did it not once, but 3 times. And tomorrow, many will find out how the voters feel about that. In just a few short months, legislators hiked the sales tax by a penny, increased the gas tax by more than 3 cents, and in the so-called sin tax, raised the price of beer and cigarettes.
Concentration today is on this.
And in between, they were lobbied by just about every group you can think of, all vowing to vote them out of office if they didn't vote the right way. And they felt the pressure.
But the fact is that some things, you know, are really more important, at least it's true with me, than whether or not I get to come back to the Senate.
With almost a total lack of exciting statewide races in this election year, many thought there would be more interest generated in the legislature, particularly in light of the tax increases that passed this session. But that hasn't proven to be the case. And neither has the notion that incumbents who voted for those tax increases would get abnormally high opposition.
for these reforms.
Take the House, where every seat is up for grabs this year. 36 incumbents who are running for re-election voted for all 3 tax increases this year. 50% of them face opponents in tomorrow's primary. But if you look at the incumbents who voted against all 3 taxes, 88% of them drew primary opponents.
Historically, the legislators, incumbent legislators, don't get beat because of specific votes. Incumbent legislators get beat because of an image they have back home.
Ken Nance is an Oklahoma City attorney and former legislator. He spent a lot of time this election year as a consultant on these House and Senate races. And he doesn't think the face of the legislature will change much at all.
And I think when they call the roll next Tuesday night and look at it, you'll have just as many people that voted against the taxes will be beat as those that voted for it.
It's a general disenchantment.
Yes, yes. At this point, the real problem politicians have is nobody likes them.
Liked or not, Nance and other insiders believe voters will more than likely send most of them back for another chance. Jeff Fowler, News 4.
There was no probably too much that it was.
I couldn't get going this morning. Couldn't find a parking place.
I hope he is.
Well, he is, right?
Hey, blow for liberty. Just that I hope that everybody goes to vote. I would point out that many times it's difficult to see where the state questions are on the ballot, so I would encourage everybody to make sure they look even the second time to make sure that they see where the state questions are.
As hard as you try to get out and visit with the people of this state, you can't touch everyone and have an opportunity to visit with them. So, no, we weren't greatly concerned, but we tried to mount a campaign that let us have contact with the people of the state of Oklahoma.
Now that the state water question has passed, many expect to see improvements in water plants like this one in El Reno. Earlier this summer, water flowed in just one of the city's tanks. Others inside the plant remain dormant and in disrepair. With the water question passed, cities can use a $25 million water fund as collateral when they borrow money for water projects. Some said the state should not become involved in local water problems, but surprisingly 66% voted in favor of the water question, leaving only 34% against it. It was a stunning victory for the question's biggest supporter.
We will move as quickly as possible, but still be prudent. We don't want to make any mistakes because the people put a lot of confidence in us, and we want to make sure that we use every precaution necessary. What we have to do, of course, is contact the communities and say who would like to participate, who would be interested in it. Then we can decide what amount that we should put into effect and how quickly.
So it's up to the cities and towns themselves. They can decide to improve their water systems immediately or in the near future. But now they can also depend on the state for help when they work to keep the water flowing. Bob Donaldson, News 4.
Those communities which step forward and develop a water resource are going to prosper in the next decade, the next generation. Those which
Put your hands on camera. Up there. Step back.
I look at Penthouse.
The obscenity, the way the law stands is today, and the way the case law has been for the last 5, 6, 7 years, is basically it's a community standard. So it'll be for the people of Oklahoma County, the jurors that will sit on these cases in the future, they'll have to determine what obscenity is.
Of course, the heat gave us a lot of problems today, being 103 degrees, took a toll on our firefighters, and we had to call additional companies for manpower because we had 2 or 3 of our firefighters suffer some minor heat exhaustion.
Judging by the traffic in downtown Sallisaw, some race fans were scared off by the delays that plagued the track's first opening date. 2 weeks ago, residents say these roads were even busier. Traffic was down at restaurants as well. Empty tables filled them instead of the out-of-state customers expected by owners. The customers that did show up came from Tulsa or nearby Fort Smith, and they bought more racing forms than they did food.
Everybody that's been here is fairly local. Last time we had a lot of people I had a lot of people in from California, Nebraska, and Iowa, and quite a few from Mississippi. And I've had one customer I've talked to from out of state today.
Motels in Sallisaw depended on the racetrack business even more. Some were specifically built for the race crowd, and though they filled up, there was none of the rush for rooms that preceded the first opening date.
Last time we were booked well in advance, and there were people just begging for rooms, a place to stay. This time, I'd say it's down probably 30% at least.
Despite the disappointment, all the merchants add that the first race fell just before Labor Day weekend. So some speculate that with the official opening over, business will pick up at both the track and the town that's counting on it for a business boom. Bob Donaldson, News 4 in Sallisaw.
On these patients. Every patient has to have an armband corresponding to the chart.
Hospital personnel here at Midwest City Memorial did not know what to expect. All they had been told was there had been a roof collapse and the injured were on their way.
How you doing?
As they began to arrive, this hospital kicked into its disaster plan, each staff member aware of his or her responsibility to assure emergency care for the injured. Those unloaded from ambulances were confused and dazed and happy to be alive.
What's your name?
Most had cuts and abrasions. Some were wrapped in bandages that had been fashioned at the scene of the roof collapse.
Mostly there are bumps, bruises, scrapes, abrasions, lacerations of varying degrees. We have one laceration that is bad enough that will need to be repaired cosmetically in surgery.
There were also some broken bones, but most people were treated and released. This hospital had received 17 injured patients by early evening and remained on emergency standby should more bodies be transported from the scene of the disaster. Terry Cook, News 4 at Midwest City Memorial Hospital. When the first call went out over police scanners that a roof had collapsed, it alerted emergency services all over the Oklahoma City metro area that a disaster could be in the making. Eyewitness accounts at that time claimed at least 20 people had been seen trapped inside. Midwest City Ambulance Service was first on the scene. Before it was over, even police officers from as far away as Hera would show up. As in any disaster, there's always wisdom in hindsight. Midwest City's ambulance service was the primary responder to the scene. It brought injured people here to Midwest City Memorial Hospital. Now, after a couple days of reviewing what happened on Thursday, if there's any one criticism, it would be that there was a lack of communication at the scene and an over-response of emergency vehicles, and that led to some confusion.
That put us with a whole lot of people on scene that we really didn't need. And when you get into a situation like that, then it's hard to control. People that are busy are easy to keep control of. People that aren't busy, it's a little bit harder to control. So we had a lot of people that weren't busy, and consequently we had confusion with the fact that we had too many people there that were available but weren't really needed.
In reviewing his own team's performance, Opichka says he sees no shortcomings. Sometime in the next week, all involved in emergency response to that scene will sit down together and sift through how each party might have made the operation run just a little more smoothly. Terry Cook, News 4.
No, not Mexico City, the Anatole Hotel in downtown Dallas. And the reason for the party atmosphere? The arrival of the President of the United States. Several members of the Oklahoma delegation arrived at the hotel for a luncheon hosted by First Lady Nancy Reagan. The Reagans bring an added excitement to Dallas, and most of the Sooner delegation agree the convention is picking up steam.
Last night with Gerald Ford and Betty there was some great deal more excitement than earlier in the week, and I think come tonight it will really be exciting. Tomorrow night, that'll really be exciting.
The Oklahomans that were not invited to the luncheon waited outside the reception hall, hoping to get a glimpse of the big names. People like Oklahoma native Gene Kirkpatrick, Funny Lady and Tonight Show guest host Joan Rivers, and even Shirley Temple Black showed up to talk politics.
We tend to unify, as most political parties do, when it gets down to the crunch.
And then the moment everyone was waiting for, the arrival of First Lady Nancy Reagan. Mrs. Reagan was whisked into the reception area surrounded by more than a dozen Secret Service agents. But she did have time to stop and visit with some Oklahomans. And what did the Sooners think of Nancy?
Would you like to see my hand? She shook my hand, really. Someone from Oklahoma, she shook her hand. And let's take her picture, but we're glad.
At the Anatole, Kurt Autry, News 4. The First Lady hosted an exclusive luncheon at the hotel for almost 1,000 guests. The Sooners that were not invited inside stood in the reception hall to try and get close to Nancy. The security was tight, but a few Oklahomans did get to shake her hand. Everyone seemed impressed with the First Lady.
She's a lovely lady. Yes, she is a lovely lady. Yes, such a pretty lady. You know, I didn't realize she was so tiny, but she is really fantastic.
It's an honor to give the roll call at the convention, and this year, Nancy Apgar will be doing it for Oklahoma. But Nancy's involvement in this convention started long before the opening session. She was in charge of finding hotel rooms for all of the national delegates.
Dallas, because of the huge building over the past 10 years, has probably more hotels within a 5-mile radius of the downtown convention center than any place in the country, Linda.
But there were special considerations that had to be made.
Size of the delegation was a big consideration, and of course, a state like Alaska wanted to have a swimming pool because they don't swim in Alaska.
Nancy Apgar has other duties. She presides over fundraising events in Oklahoma, like this one with TV star Mike Connors. When the delegation reconvenes tonight, Nancy will take the microphone on national television to announce Oklahoma's vote for Reagan.
Oh, I think it's a very thrilling experience. I agree.
Have you decided what you're going to say yet?
I'm thinking about it.
Is it going to be
have several ideas.
Jeff Murray and his wife Gail are packing up their gear and heading back to Tulsa. For the past 3 days, home has been a canvas pup tent in the makeshift village known as Tent City. Jeff and Gail belong to Acorn, the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now. Everyone's leaving today, but before the Murrays make the long trek north across the Red River, they want to remind the Sooner delegation one last time how they feel about Ronald Reagan.
84, 1, 2, 3, 4, out the door in 84.
They walked for the poor and the homeless. Many of the 1,500 marchers were out of work, some underemployed, not earning enough to get by. Today's rally ended a 3-day effort to canvass low-income neighborhoods, registering voters to oust the president. Only a handful of Oklahomans marched today. Their voices were few, but their message was clear.
The people, united, will never be defeated. I think the people in Oklahoma are angry about what Ronald Reagan's been doing about taxes, education, and the welfare of our children growing up right here in America. And I'm just really excited. This shows a show of force. And I just wish everyone in Oklahoma could be here with me.
Acorn marched to the convention center to show off the rewards of their 3 days of hard labor.
So we're going to put our registration cards in here. We're going to show Ronald Reagan that we mean business in Acorn.
Unlike most of the demonstrators in Dallas, Acorn has something to show for its time and effort. Members recruited close to 12,000 new voters. And even though many of the tents will come down tonight, the registration drives will continue. Kurt Autry, News 4, Dallas. It was a memento from the past, parked in a high-tech city that prides itself on the future. During the 1940s, this old rail car was home to Harry and Bess Truman on the Whistle Stop campaign trail. A lot has changed in 40 years, including the car's political affiliation. In Dallas, the antique plays host to Republicans, including the Oklahoma delegation.
It has been reworked, and now we have it almost in running shape. We still have some problems. It is an elderly lady that we have to keep shoring up.
The grand old madam of the rail yard has been officially retired, but the ornaments and trimmings that made her famous are still intact. The very same bed that Harry Truman slept in occupies the lavish stateroom. The dining area is equally impressive. There is little doubt that important decisions were discussed over this dinner table. The famous Truman rail train will never regain the stature that it once occupied, but the monument on wheels endures, much to the delight of the Oklahoma delegation. Kurt Autry, News 4, Dallas.
I think he's the greatest president we've had in probably 100 years.
He's done a super job. In fact, it's been great all week. I think he's probably one of the best presidents we've had in recent years. In strength-wise, he's really strong. Everybody feels good about his foreign policy and how the way people perceive him around the world.
Today's conventions, today's issue is going to be a lot different than 88, but I think Kemp definitely is running. I know Bob Dole is.
Who do you like?
Well, I like them both, but I like Bush better.
I kind of looking at one of myself.
Who?
Bush.
We've got a big election chore before us to elect Ronald Reagan, so a lot of people have been asking me that, and I said, wait a minute, let's don't look at 88. Let's look at 1984, make sure we get Ronald Reagan in, let's send him some help in the House and the Senate, then we can worry about 88 a little later.
Tulsa delegate Charles Cruzan was the first to be seated in the Oklahoma delegation. He got there about an hour and a half early. While the other delegates were still getting up, he was brushing up on the program. He said he started early because he thought security would be a problem.
I've heard all the stories how much time it takes to get through security, so I thought, well, I'd start working.
As it turned out, there were no security delays. The program started on time.
Ladies and gentlemen, step right up to President Reagan's button booth. Every 15 minutes, the president calls to find out which button is doing the best.
It would almost be a crime to attend the Republican National Convention and not come away with some kind of trinket. There are the traditional campaign buttons, exotic T-shirts,
14-karat yellow gold, solid gold pins, pendants right here.
and even Republican jewelry. And how expensive are some of these GOP goodies?
$95. It's 14-karat yellow gold, three-dimensional elephant with diamonds in each eye.
Okay, I'm 3 now. Say cheese. Cheese. Who says you have to be practical at a convention? For a mere $10, you can get your picture made with the president. Is he really this tall?
Yes, lady. The rah-rah Ronnie doll.
Go on hats, visors. I mean, they're the things.
This is a miniature of Fig Ivy. You dunk him underwater at least twice a week, and this is how you water the little dude.
The specialty items get pretty silly, but that fact doesn't seem to scare any of the customers away.
I'm a sucker and I fall for it. And it's beautiful. Look, I bought this.
The Dallas department stores carry every conceivable accessory needed for the smartly attired conventioneer. And there is no doubt that all of the Sooner delegates will be going home with a quaint little reminder of the Lone Star State.
Let me go to Texas, 'cause Texas is as close as I've been.
Kurt Autry, News 4, Dallas. Conventions are nothing new to the city of Dallas. In fact, this city ranks third in the country in the number of meetings hosted. But financially, merchants are not pleased with the revenue brought in so far.
It could have been better, perhaps, but then, that's the way thing goes. Everybody don't contribute the same.
Thomas had expected bigger and better tips at this convention. He says most of his fellow drivers are in the same boat. Local cabbies also agree that business has been below average. Between the convention activities and the side trips, the Oklahoma delegates haven't had much spare time to spend money. But most of the Sooners do expect to get in some last-minute shopping.
I really don't have any definite plans. I just want to come home with some labels that we don't have in Oklahoma.
We hope to shop today. We have not had time. There have been so many functions.
I've done some rather foolish things like buying a pair of shoes at Neiman's.
Neiman Marcus is one store that has been able to cash in. The 7-story department store is a landmark here in Dallas, and this week their sales have been impressive.
We've had about double the traffic in our store than we normally have during this time of the year. And of course our sales are about double also. So it's been very good for us here at Neiman Marcus.
Across the city, sales have not been terrific, but nobody is losing their shirt. Delegates are spending money, and when it's all said and done, sales are expected to be off by only about 20%.